Hey guys, Hink here. So are you wondering if you're a good candidate for enlargement practices? Well, I got an answer for you today, okay? So first of all, is having a smaller D or being on the smaller side, is that like honestly kind of like ruining your life? Now, hopefully you guys are mature enough where you wouldn't let something just like the size of your member dictate like your overall happiness in life. But like for me, for example, like I wouldn't watch movies with my significant other if I thought there might be like a male nude scene or something like that. I wouldn't go to public urinals. And so like on a day-to-day basis, when I would go to the locker room, I would like hide or I'd wait for everybody else to shower before I would go shower. If those types of things are affecting your life, maybe it's right for you. However, I do think every guy should consider counseling first. There's legitimate ICD-10 code. I'm like a medical diagnosis, and it's called like basically penile dysmorphia disease. It is a subset of like body dysmorphia, but there's also something that's called small penis syndrome, where you actually just like believe you have a small penis even though you actually are average or maybe even above average. So if that's the case, like you honestly might need counseling first, but it's still something to consider. If adding on size would dramatically improve your life. So I'm not talking about like, oh man, if I could just add 2 inches. I'm talking about like, man, if I could add a quarter of an inch, I would be so much happier. That was the case with me. I would have been happy with just a quarter of an inch in length. And as a result, I was very pleased with my results. You have to be willing to assume some risk, okay? Nothing in life is guaranteed, but anytime that you are doing things like manual stretch or even some of these devices, there is the inherent risk of damage, and there are guys who get injured, and that's part of where like my Patreon coaching comes from, is trying to help people get through over these injuries. So you have to be willing to assume some risk. You want to get bigger for yourself. Not for anybody else, not for your girlfriend, not for any of that. Personally, just because you want to be bigger, okay? You don't do it for anybody else, or else you're going to end up being miserable. The same thing, if you want to do it and somebody doesn't want you to do it, that's a conversation you need to have with your significant other. In my opinion, this is like maximizing yourself. No different than bodybuilding or build your wealth, learn a new language. It's about building yourself to be the best version of yourself. You have to be happy with small gains. Guys, I've been doing this for 3 years. Yes, I put on 1.5 inches in length. But over the course of 3 years, if you actually break that down to when I'm actually doing active enlargement exercises, it's been less than 1/10 of an inch per month, guys. That's a very slow progress. And I would say that's pretty average, maybe even fast pace. Because if you grow, let's say 1/10 of an inch per month, in the course of a year, that's adding on 1.2 inches. That's faster than what I would say. So you have to be prepared for slow gains. If you're one of those people that if you do this for a year and you only gain 1/4 of an inch and you would be like mad that you spent a year doing it, it's not for you guys. You have to have some semblance of privacy, guys. Like, I mean, unless you and whoever you're around are cool with it, then that's fine. But if you're trying to do this and keep it like low key, keep it a secret, or you just don't want to be pulling on your junk in front of somebody, I mean, I would say you'd have to at least be able to have some privacy for about 30 minutes a day to have any kind of meaningful gains over the course of a year. Guys, you might not like this. You need to have some sort of finances. Yes, there are things you can do with your hands, but in general, I think at the very least, based on my recommendations, at some point you're going to need something like a pump. I'm just saying that oftentimes, in order to maximize your gains and reach your goals, no matter where you buy it from, you're going to need to invest in some kind of high quality of device, whether it be a hanger, an extender, a pump, a clamp, whatever it may be. Not that this stuff is very expensive. Like if you're doing traditional cable clamping, that's like $3 at Home Depot. So it doesn't have to be prohibitively expensive. And guys, maybe most importantly, you need to have patience. If you are not willing to, once again, be prepared to gain very slowly and you're in it for the long haul, meaning your goal for the first 6 months should be like 1/4 of an inch, okay? In my opinion, your goal for the first 3 months should be like 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch. That way, if you reach your goals, you're going to be happy. If you exceed that, you're going to be even happier. But if you don't reach that, you won't be as disappointed. So what do you think so far, guys? Like, do you agree, disagree? Let's go into who's not a candidate, okay? If you're not sure whether or not you want to do it, this is not for you guys. For me, the second I watched Derek's video and I learned this was possible, I ordered basically, the product he recommended. I'm not going to mention their name here. And I was ready to start. I was willing to do anything. If you're like, I don't know, it's not for you guys. It's not worth it. I would say don't do it. If you have severe dysmorphia, where basically no matter how big you get, no matter how much length or girth you put on, you're still going to feel small. This is not for you, because that's not going to fix the problem. You need to fix the problem up here and legitimately get counseling, guys. There's nothing wrong with that. So you really need to be very honest with yourself. It's like bodybuilders that get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not fixing the problem that they don't like what they see in the mirror. For me, when I started getting bigger, it literally cured my dysmorphia. My dysmorphia is gone. So I don't even know if it was like real dysmorphia, because like I'm very happy with my size now. Like if you've seen my 3-year anniversary video, you know how thrilled I am with the gains that I've made. If you're not willing to dedicate the time, and I'm saying like big chunks of time, like 6 months, a year, if you're not willing to put in that time day after day for long periods of time, it's not for you, because it's not going to work. You're going to burn out, and because you're not seeing gains fast enough. And you're probably going to be one of those guys, oh, PE didn't work for me, or one of those non-believers. So this is important, guys. We're going to talk about some health issues now, okay? So like if you have some sort of like what we call in the medical business a comorbidity. So if you have things like uncontrolled high blood pressure or hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes, or even just diabetes in general, that is going to make things like your risk from any of these exercises a lot higher, and you're going to be putting yourself at a higher risk, and I would not recommend you do it. Similarly, guys, if you have genetic abnormalities or even non-genetic abnormalities, and what do I mean by that? Hypospadies, where like basically your urethra and your penis is in a different location on your penis than the actual glands, or things like a varicocele or a hydrocele, I wouldn't recommend PE for you, okay? If you need to reach me directly, you can go through my Patreon, and we can talk about that if you're worried about a certain issue. But I've also made a lot of videos, like my varicocele video, that I talk about these issues. So keep that in mind. Guys, if you are not willing to assume any risk, and so what do I mean by that? If breaking your D would ruin your life more than your current size, then you don't need to do this, okay? You don't need to do it. It's not worth the risk, because there are guys that, in my opinion, they're doing something wrong, which I've made countless posts and videos about how to not get injured, but they either don't get that information or don't listen to me, and they do injure themselves, and they're miserable, and some people even have thoughts of self-harm as a result. So you need to be very honest about what kind of risk you're willing to assume before you consider doing any of this stuff. And this is a personal bias of mine. Do whatever you want, guys. But like if you're already big and you're just like, oh, I wonder how big I can get, to me, this isn't for you. And that's mostly because of the risk of injury, guys. Like I've had hard flaccid, I've had lymphangiosclerosis, I've had pelvic floor dysfunction as a result of this. I coach countless guys on a daily basis that have had injuries from doing this stuff. I can't imagine being like already like above 8 inches and doing this and getting injured, and then my junk doesn't work. I can't imagine that. So if you're doing it just for kind of like kicks and giggles, it's not worth it, guys. So if you want to reach me on my Patreon, guys, I'm actually doing a lot more things with my Patreon now. So you're going to get exclusive access to early videos. Like right now I have a video up on like what's the best way to measure. That's exclusively on my Patreon. There's going to be direct messaging through that, telephone, video chat. I'm going to be doing exclusive posts, even some progress pictures. I know that's going to upset a lot of my Reddit guys, but hey guys, it is what it is. I'm even going to be doing some things like private sneaker tours, like a collection of my watches, things like that, just so you can get me to know me on like a more personal basis. So I appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.